All right, so we'll get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. Today, we will be discussing how logistic business can decrease customer acquisition costs with trade data. Let's see here. So joining us today from Trademo will be our founder and CEO, Shalab Singhal. Trademo is a global supply chain intelligence software platform. We've been in business since 2020. Thank you very much, Shalab, for joining. We also have Chris Sampson, the CEO of Freight Mango. Freight Mango is an international freight shipping marketplace startup in the US. And hosting the webinar today will be myself, Ryan Nebulis, an account executive and team lead at Trademo. Now, as we go through the demo or the presentation, if there are any questions or queries, please add that to the chat box and our team will get back to you via email. So for our agenda today, we're going to discuss the current state of global logistics, how trade data is an excellent medium for generating sales leads for logistic companies. This is quite often overlooked, but there is a ton of value behind it. How to identify target companies. Often sales folks like myself can find it challenging, but we are going to show you how we can simplify that process. Also, the data points to use for better targeting. What is the cost? What is the cost of alternative medium of lead generation, which can often get pretty expensive? How to curate a target list using Trademo Intel. This is where I'm going to walk you through the Trademo platform and show you how to get a more targeted list. Oops. Now, to discuss these topics further, I'm going to hand it off to our CEO, Shalab Singhal.
Hey, Ryan, thanks for the introduction. And hello and welcome, everyone. Thanks for taking out time to join us today. And I'm super thrilled to be here talking to Chris and Ryan. As Ryan mentioned, I believe this is going to be a masterclass for global logistic companies, including NVOCCs, freight forwarders, intermodals, trucking companies, a lot of which are leveraging trade data today with us, on how they can actually grow their revenue with minimum customer acquisition cost and on a consistent basis. But before we delve into that secret sauce, let's understand the current market dynamics. And I would like to talk about how the market has been, obviously, for last 2 years, right? We all have seen tremendous growth in revenue for most of the logistic companies. As per a recent survey of 800 plus freight forwarders worldwide, a majority of them saw revenue growth ranging from 33 to 48% in last 2 years, right? But as we all know, a lot of this growth actually came from the growth in freight prices, which is not the case anymore, right? With falling freight rates and the softening demand, market is becoming much more competitive for acquiring the same set of customers for growing revenue, right? And that's the point, like where the revenue strategy, the growth strategy needs to be much more efficient and much more strategic going forward. And the playbook which we used for last 2 years is not going to be the same anymore. And at this time, when the needle is tilting towards the shippers, the buyers, it's becoming a buyer's market. It's equally important that we strategize on how to retain our current customers in logistics. And other than the service, understanding their overall business is becoming quite important. And yes, the market, as we know, is much more dynamic in last 2 years. With all the geopolitical events, all the disruptions that we have seen, we see a lot of changes in trade lanes very frequently. So understanding those trends and keeping a check on them is equally important. So Ryan, can we move to the next slide? Yeah, so delving into the secret sauce. So before I actually talk about why trade data is an excellent medium to generate leads for logistic companies, quickly describing what trade data is for a few people who might not be completely aware with this. So there are a lot of government authorities, a lot of carrier networks, which publish transactional data on the exports and imports, coming with a lag of 1 day to 30 days, or even at times to 2 months. But this data contains a lot of information around the exports import transactions as allowed in the ambit of different laws of different authorities worldwide. And this is a raw data. We are talking of millions of shipments coming every day. And this needs a lot of effort in terms of cleaning it, processing it, but it's definitely worth it. And let's talk about how specifically for the use case of logistic companies. The first point is that this is the actual accurate and indisputable data. So this data is coming from filings to different government authorities, right? So you cannot really argue the accuracy of this particular data. Now, how it helps is logistic companies, obviously a lot of players have their own niche, have their own strengths with respect to trade lanes, with respect to kind of product they would want to ship, or with respect to the size of the companies that they want to serve, right? So this data really helps you understand your prospects better before you reach out to them, right? So that you can target them better. Also, you can actually utilize this data to understand the seasonality of any particular business. And as they say, and sales timing is everything, it helps you identify and reach out to the prospects right in time. The other point is just analyzing this data, as Rayan is further going to display, helps you understand what are the pain points of some of these customers. So when you are reaching out to them, you can have you can target that particular pain point, and you can refine your messaging better, right? So for example, a prospect which is currently using one of the trade routes, which you know is not very optimized for time and as well as cost. So you can actually do research on the overall trade routes utilized, or the carrier network utilized by some of your prospects, and then reach out to them accordingly. The other point here is the data allows you to target customers at the pin code level, right? So you can actually have your teams, and if your offices are spread across multiple states, multiple cities, you can let your most closer teams to reach out to most targeted customers. And there are many other data points which you can use for better targeting. And the other important point is that this is a medium where you can consistently and generate leads reliably, right? So this is not a one-off campaign which is going to give some leads to your sales team for some time, and then not able to kind of furnish new leads, or it's not going to work in the future. This is a kind of a practice which can give you leads consistently, because the data is getting updated every day, every week, every month, and there are new customer accounts which are getting added with this. So there are new companies in the market which might be your prospects for logistic companies. Then equally important, based on all the insights that you have about this customer, a lot of personalization of pricing can be done, right? Which is not possible if you are just running mass campaigns. And this really helps in improving your conversion rates. The other example I would like to share here is that your go-to-market strategy can be aligned with the overall market dynamics. In last couple of months, we have seen how the volume on ports is increasing more on the New York, New Jersey ports, even becoming higher than some of our California ports. And all of that strategy, how that impacts your resource allocation, can be done in a very good way using all these trade data insights. Then another factor which is equally important in today's market is understanding your competition's strategy, understanding their market share, right? So if you are really trying to grow your market against some of your competitors, this data is going to help you, because there's a lot of detail around the carriers, NVOCCs, freight forwarders that you can leverage. And last but not the least, for your current customers, you understand about their overall potential, you understand about their overall shipping volume trends, you understand about their other partners. And definitely a good point to start when you're trying to increase your wallet share with your current customers and definitely retain them. So with this, I think I've talked enough. Now it's time I hand it over to Chris, who is one of our esteemed customers in the logistics space, and who have actually leveraged all of this data to not just generate tremendous growth for themselves in last couple of months, but also significantly improve their customer acquisition cost. So Chris, I would like you to take it from there.
Thanks, Shalab. I appreciate it. Yeah, I would say just to kind of double down on what you were talking about, one of the areas that we've seen Trademo help us the most over the last couple of months has been specifically on qualifying the leads that we have. I think Trademo is great in terms of generating new lead lists, but we actually already had a really strong database of companies that we wanted to target. And what Trademo has allowed us to do is really help qualify them quickly, rather than going through that mass approach that you alluded to. So when kind of first starting off on how we wanted to identify our target companies, in terms of qualifying them, these are kind of the main filters that we focused on. I'd say, so number one, and I think this would be true for any mid-market forwarder, which is kind of the area that we're currently in. I mean, we're a marketplace, so we're not a direct forwarder. We work with other NVOCCs and liners directly. But overall, we're still going after the similar customer segment, and it's identifying what trade lanes that you have your strengths in. And so we know where our best trade lanes are. And so allowing us to put that as one of the filters is really important for us, because now we automatically can see which customers fit the trade lanes that we know that we're really strong in, whether it be operationally through lead times, as well as obviously through price, which is ultra important in the freight market, especially right now. And then from there, I'd say, what are the volume of shipments per month, for the customers that you're going after? So we have a very specific sweet spot, which again, I would also define in that medium mid-market size of who we're going after, where we have the best product market fit for what we've gone to market with. And so with trade lanes and volumes per shipment, that's been really important for us to be able to really curate the entire list of the leads that we want to go after, as well as, again, qualify the ones that we already have in the lead list that we already had prior to using Trademo. And so then when we talk a bit more tactical based, well, we have, our sales account executives across the US. So that's where consignee city can come into play, as well as consignee state. So where do you want to focus in terms of regionally for your specific account executives to target? And that's what allows in consignee city. And then lastly, I think this is really important depending on the type of forwarder and again, where your strengths are as a company are the HS codes. So what type of products do you want to focus on? And I would also say, again, there's certain areas right now that have been greatly impacted with the market conditions. There are others that are still backlogged. And so using this data to figure out, okay, which ones are backlogged, and then targeting that, you're going to get a much better chance of converting those customers compared to the ones where they've already over-delivered on inventory and are sitting on probably months of inventory in the future, and probably their shipments are going down. So let's go to the next slide, Ryan.
All right.
So to that point, how do we figure out once we now have our lead list, which companies to focus on? And this is where the targeting comes into play. So excuse me, the analytics tab is really has been really useful for us. And so within each customer, you can go and see what transactional volume, or actually it doesn't have to be one customer, you can see it for broader industries as well on the filters that we just talked about. But ultimately, you can go in and if you do want to look at a per customer basis, you can click into them, you can see what their recent shipment volume is, and you can see it for I think the last decade worth of volume, and make a decision. Are they increasing right now? Are they decreasing? Are they steady? Are they cyclical? They're not cyclical. So all of those things are really important when having that conversation. I think the other thing, as I alluded to, is we know what our strength is for trade lanes, as well as the types of goods that we are good at handling, which would be the sections. So that's where we look at their countries of origin and where they're starting. Because for the US, we're primarily focused on imports. Luckily, Trademo has both imports and exports, but we've really been leveraging the imports to date. So seeing where that country of origin is to match up with our trade lanes has been really important. And then lastly, I think that is really important in the competitive landscape. So once you work with some customers and start to convert them over, they switch over from who they were previously using, then we can target other customers that are using those same carriers to try to provide a better service, maybe a better product experience. Just depends on what those pain points are that we're solving. And Trademo allows you to do that seamlessly. Next slide. And so when kind of looking at the cost alternate to using Trademo as well as generating leads, I think there's a few areas, like I've mentioned, that we've seen the most improvement on our cost of acquisition, the CAC. And the first one is definitely on the qualification process. And so as a marketplace, we actually have the ability to send customers directly to our marketplace, and they can fulfill their freight on their own. And so as we generate new leads directly in our marketplace, we can use Trademo to see, okay, what's their shipment volume? If it's a higher shipment volume, then we'll pass them on to an account executive. If it's a very low shipment volume, then we can use our customer success team to guide them through the marketplace themselves. But it's really about refining the appropriate cost of the account executives to the right size opportunity for them to be matched with it. I'll say this, before Trademo, we were really shooting blind here. We had no idea for each lead coming in. So it would take kind of that meeting just to figure it out. I mean, just eliminating those meetings in itself can truly save a lot of cost, because you're not going after leads that don't fit the profile of where your strengths are as a company. And so like I've also said, we on the other side could be maybe too large of customers for where we are currently as a customer or as a company. And so what we do there is, well, maybe we can just focus on one lane. And so we look at their lane history and see, let's just start there, as opposed to trying to capture the entire business, which lines up with our product. And so that has actually worked out really well too, to see for maybe some large enterprises, I think pretty much every customer that you're going to look at is going to have some type of China volume. But what are the other lanes that they're working at? And we've really identified other lanes that we want to focus on, because Ryan mentioned that we have a team in the US, but we also have a team in India as well. And so India to US is one of our strong lanes that we're focused on. And so with larger customers, we really try to start there, get in there, show our, the product and the quality of the product, as well as the quality of service. And then from there, grow the business once we achieve those lane efficiencies. And then if we're just looking at the other alternatives besides using Trademo, I don't have to list them out, but there's many other lead list and databases out there, I think, which are good for giving you kind of businesses and information and contact information. But again, you really don't have any idea of what size they are, what type of freight volume specifically they're working at. You might be able to see what their annual revenue is, but nothing that we've seen until we've come across Trademo shows you directly what they're doing on a daily basis. And so what we've projected is this is going to reduce our cost of acquisition over the coming year by 75%, which is, for an earlier stage startup is really, just crucial for survivability, especially kind of in the market conditions that we see coming forward. So that's why it was honestly a no-brainer when it came to Trademo and investing in this and making sure that we had the right data and ultimately providing those right tools for account executives to be able to be more efficient and effective while selling.
Great. Thank you, Chris. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to dip into a live demo demonstration. And please, if you have any questions, please let us know in the chat box and we will get back to you via email after the presentation. All right, so right now we're logging into the Trademo platform. And when you log into the Trademo platform, you have your different data sets that you can choose up here. US imports, exports, Mexico, other Latin American countries as well. Shipments, where you can search by the product, the HS code, consignee, or even the shipper. Companies, where you can look up company profiles, and then you can also look up trade statistics as well. Now here we have our date range. So for demo purposes, we're going to do a search over the last year. And then on the left, please take a look here. You have all your filters. Okay. So what we're going to do today is just build out a trade lane. And here you could do it by country. We're going to go China. And then port of unlading. We'll just pick a couple like LA and Long Beach. Hit apply. So now, once again, what we're doing here is we're looking at a trade lane over the last year going from China to LA and Long Beach. So if we go to analytics, which Chris mentioned earlier, this is an area that he really enjoys looking at because it gives you a nice overview. You can look at your shipments by the number of shipments, total TEUs, total weight. Here we'll just do it by TEUs. I find that to be the most common way. So here you can see the total shipments, total TEUs, total weight. Here we can look at the trends. Country of origin is China, as we set it up. The top consignee state countries. Top ports of unlading, like we mentioned before, LA and Long Beach were how we had it set up. The foreign ports of lading. The top consignee states. You also have your top notified parties and top trade routes. Top 10 trade routes. The top NVOCCs and VOCCs and carriers in that trade lane as well. And then you also have your top HS codes and top sections. Now, let's say hypothetically, we're looking at this data here and, we want to hone in on crystal lanes work in that trade lane. What we can do is we can click on that. And now it's just going to look, now it filtered in that NVOCC. And now you're looking at all that trade data. And now it's specific to crystal lines. So you can hone in on them hypothetically for one of your competitors. Okay. And if you want to get out of there, you just click right there and then it'll take out that filter. Now, if we want to look at, which I find to be a very important part for most people, obviously, when looking for leads, is your unique importers. So here you click on unique importers, and this would be like your lead list of companies that you could go after. And you can download that list right here. Click download. And then you can open it up. And that would be your lead list that you can hand off to, hypothetically, a sales rep. Has all that information there. Now, like Chris mentioned earlier, sometimes he's focusing on different size companies, medium, for instance. We also have this filter here where you can click on it, and then you can filter between less than, greater than a certain number of shipments, EUs, as well as weight. Okay. So let's say we identified one of these companies that we want to hone in on. For instance, Tractor Supply Company. We can click on that. Here we can see what their product keywords are, corporate details, what their top HS codes are, We can see who their trading partners are. And then, you know, once again, leads, you can request contact details. And here, it's going to give you a list of contacts that you can search. And then we can click on one of them. And then it's going to give their contact info, as you can see right here. So that's very important, obviously, when doing searches on companies, getting the contact information. So if we go back to summary, right, we're looking at Tractor Supply Company. If we want to look into them even deeper and get a better understanding of their trade activity, we can view their individual shipments. And we can go back to the analytics portion where we're looking at it by TEUs, and we can see what their trade activity has looked like. You know, what countries are they calling, are they working with? You know, what are the top ports of unlading? So when you're calling into this organization, Tractor Supply, you're making a more intelligent cold call. You know about their trade activity. You have factual information. You're going to know what NVOCCs they're working with, the VOCCs, the carriers. What are their top HF codes, like we showed you before. But you're going to have that all on Tractor Supply Company. Now, if we want to dig in deeper and get granular and look at individual shipments, we can do that as well. So here, we're looking at all the shipments for Tractor Supply. And here we can just click on one of the shipments. And this is the type of information that it's going to get you, which we're getting from the bill of lading. We're going to give you the estimated, well, not from the bill of lading here, but we have an algorithm to give you the estimated value of the shipment. We're going to tell you how many TEUs it has, date of arrival. As you can see, where it's coming from, where it's going to. We're going to give you carrier details as well. It's also going to identify the specific container. And then if you want to as well, you can download these shipments too and take them offline if you want to further analyze them. That is how you curate a list through the platform. With that being said, we'd like to thank Chris for his participation and the invaluable insights he has provided today. And if you or your organization would like to discuss this topic further and are looking for a trusted partner to assist with highly granular transactional trade data, please reach out to me via the email address listed below. But once again, thank you, Chris, for your time. Thank you, Shalab. And everybody have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Shalab.
Thanks.